Wrong. They're wrong. Wrong. Distinguish for me the difference between inference or induction on the one hand and deduction on the other hand. What program are you in? Yes. By the way, how are all you MSFE students feeling this week and last week? Do you admit openly to the public at large that you're a student of financial engineering? Are you a little nervous thinking you're taking your lives in your hands?
Yeah.
You admit you're enrolled in financial engineering program.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wrong. I'm not exactly sure what people in financial engineering do other than value portfolios inside financial instruments. And I have very limited experience in that. So I'll have to call it a session. So we call it. No. You can't say that. I think that the financial engineers of the 90s did a great thing. The people who came up with the ways by which we could add liquidity to capital markets were geniuses. They were really smart guys. We made a few mistakes along the way. One of the mistakes we made along the way was the way in which we managed loan officers. The incentive structures for loan officers were terrible. They were completely screwed up. Whether they were mortgage loan people, or business loan people, or people who were trying to get us to use our credit card more, the incentives for people getting us to borrow money were so screwed up that we were doing peculiar things like borrowing the down payment for our house and then borrowing the other 80%. So we were 100% leveraged. And because the first mortgage and the second mortgage went into different pools, nobody really knew. My brother thought he was buying a house at auction last year, and he got burned big time because the first and second mortgages were in different places in the books where these things are filed. So he looked it up and did his own title search. And in the end, he ended up buying the second mortgage, not the first. So in one morning, he lost $30,000. He thought he was going to make a lot of money. And the people who had thought they owned the house had borrowed more than the house was worth. So it's not the financial engineers who were I won't go that far. They weren't completely at fault. Couldn't live without you. But it was the people who were trying to utilize the tools created by the financial engineers. But if you talk to loan officers, they'll tell you that the pressure is on. They produce. You talk to the real estate appraisers, the pressure was on to overvalue the property consistently all the time. So that's where the problem is. And then once the mortgages got put in these pools, it was impossible to figure out what was in it. Nobody had enough time to do necessary due diligence. And so guessing the risk in the pool was very, very difficult.
Yeah, just to say, the Federal Reserve on top of that said, go ahead and borrow. Everything's okay.
Right.
Right.
So MBOs and CDOs and things like that, they're clever ideas. And different tranches of the human pool is a clever idea, it's a neat way to do things. But you got to rely on what's going into the pool and a good handle on it.
Right. We created a law for way more.
Right. So you figure it out yet? Induction or inverse versus Deduction. Oh, maybe I can help you answer. Let me not score you quite yet. If I look at you wearing a gray shirt, and I said, I think all the t-shirts in your dresser drawer are gray, am I deducing something about the shirts in your drawer, or inferring something about the shirts in your drawer? Yes. I'm going from the sample to the population of shirts. I'm inferring something about the population on the basis of the fact that for the last 3 weeks I've seen Ron wearing gray t-shirts. If I were to go to Rom's home and look in his dresser drawer and see that there's nothing but gray t-shirts in there, I would deduce that next week Rom is going to wear a gray t-shirt. So deduction is working from the population of the sample, and inference or induction is working from the sample back to the population. And which is more commonplace in our lives? Deduction or inference? Inference, because it's rare that we have a chance to see the whole population and make a deduction therefrom. So you salvage something. Gladys. Give me the names of some measures of central tendency. You guys back there hear what she said? You want to use my microphone? Mean, median, and mode are all measures of central tendency. Where's Josh? There we go. You were sitting down here last week. Before. I lost. So Josh, tell me about some measures of dispersion. Variance range, median quartile range. Anybody think any others?
I would guess higher limits.
Skewness and kurtosis tell us something about the shape of the dispersion tells us how spread out it is. And so the skewness tells us the ordering of the mean, the median, and the mode. And the kurtosis tells us how big the hips on the density function are.
Did you accept somebody up there that's the standard deviation for counting that, or?
Yeah, that's a measure of dispersion. Square root of variance. Just as a notational convenience, we have a convention. And the convention is that we typically use the Greek letters to represent population parameters. When we use the Arabic letters of the alphabet, the Roman letters of the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, X, Y, Z, represent sample statistics, like X bar, S, things like that. Sometimes, if we're not feeling especially creative, we'll put a little hat or a tilde over the Greek letter and say that that's a sample.